Well, Mikel Arteta on a lot of the morning's back pages. Let's discuss that with John and Jonathan now. John, let's start with you. Artful Dodger is the main headline in The Sun. I mean, how do you see this story? Do you think he's been a bit lucky to be cleared here?
Well, if you read the written reasons, honestly, it really is so insightful and so revealing, the written reasons. I think the 37 pages long and everyone a page turner. Arsenal have employed a top-level QC amongst a sort of a 5-team legal counsel. And frankly, I mean, people were a bit surprised because it felt as if they were trying to find a way to charge Arteta, and they duly did. Because, I mean, you might disagree with what Arteta did, but it seemed to me that I didn't know that he particularly crossed the line. So I was surprised. His words were very strong in the first instance after what happened at Newcastle, very powerful and very determined. However, was there really sort of room for a charge to come in and therefore a punishment? Did he question their integrity? I don't think he did personally. Listen, I'm not always in favour of what Arteta says about referees. I don't think he behaved particularly well sometimes on the touchline and could be a bit more respectful to referees. They've got a tough job. Everyone knows that. But on this one, it was a particularly fiery occasion. He let rip in 3 separate TV interviews. And he said actually virtually the same thing in each and every one of them. Well, if you stick a TV camera in front of a manager after a highly charged game and ask him questions, you know, what do you expect? But his honest answer. And frankly, he repeated it, 3 times. And it wasn't really, one of the FA charges that they can look for is a prolonged attack. It wasn't really that. It was just repetitive. And frankly, if you read the written reasons, they are fascinating. They're amazing. They come up with various bits and pieces. This breakdown of kind of language barrier. Arteta was quoted as saying it was disgrace. Well, his legal team managed to convince the 3-man panel that actually he meant disgracia, which is a Spanish word meaning misfortune and bad luck, really. The other thing is that they called him an impressive witness, the 3-man panel. And also it revealed that Joe Willock, the Newcastle player, used to play for Arsenal, actually told Arsenal former teammates that he thought the ball was out of play before it was crossed back. I mean, honestly, I feel like the Arsenal legal team basically got the case, ripped it to shreds and served it up to the FA on their sort of almost on their backsides, really. It's quite a damning indictment of the FA that it got this far. They were looking for a reason, they were looking for a punishment, and obviously went for Arteta and couldn't find it. And I have to say, I do think I worry that it's done damage actually, because it will say to other managers, say to other players, well, you can say what you like and get away with it, because it doesn't reflect particularly well. Yes, there was high emotions, but I still don't massively approve of what Arteta said. But they had no reason particularly to charge him, and sure enough, he's got off. It's bizarre.
This story featuring on so many of the back pages, including the Mail, Arteta cleared, is their headline. Jonathan, let's pick up with you on John's point there about manager comments. And I want to ask you, does this set a precedent, do you think, that Arteta's being cleared here, of what we might now see in the future, managers coming out with really strong comments after the game and not being punished?
I don't think it sets a precedent so much in that Arteta's comments were basically nothing new. We've had for decades going back managers making comments, all kinds of comments about the officials, about the referees, about the authorities, and so there isn't anything particularly new about this. I mean, my stance on this is that I obviously think there needs to be a lot more respect shown to officials generally within the game by fans and players. But by the same token, I'm not really a huge fan of like punishing comments made in a press conference arena or in the tunnel afterwards. I think authorities can get a bit heavy-handed with that kind of stuff. Touchline behaviour, I think that does need to be policed quite strongly. But what a manager says in the press conference room afterwards, I don't necessarily think that should be the subject of legal proceedings. The Premier League kind of has it's caught between two stools here, because obviously you don't want coaches or players questioning the integrity of the competition, because that's essentially their product. But once you lose that integrity, once you have people questioning it, that affects the product they're trying to sell. But equally, part of the product they're trying to sell is this kind of, the emotion, the controversy, the almost of the unfiltered reactions that you get from those involved. And so, they're in kind of a difficult position here, because the thing that, has the potential to impugn the integrity of their competition is also the thing that drives engagement and debate and clicks and obviously, a huge amount of content.
John, how much does it need to be taken into account that managers are in high-pressure jobs? They're coming out and speaking to the national media straight after games when emotions are running high. How much does that need to be taken into consideration when it comes to their post-match comments?
Well, it absolutely does. I mean, I completely agree and echo what Jonathan says there. I mean, it is. We are expecting them to answer pretty brutal, heat of the moment questions, aren't we? And it's interesting, if you look at those written reasons, they quote 3 TV interviews, and it was almost like he was quoting off a script. I mean, listen, from what I hear, he did actually go into those interviews having already been cleared, if you like, to say what he can say. Basically he was, had the full support of the club to be forceful, to be forthright, and basically was able to say that. But I do think if we want decent, hard-hitting, powerful comments, then there has to be a degree of sympathy and understanding when sometimes managers lose control. Well, I tell you what, I mean, I don't always, as I said before, don't always approve of what Arteta says. And I think that referees do deserve respect. I mean, Lord alone knows that we need to show respect after this week and this week's terrible events in Turkey. That's certainly nothing to do with Arteta and Arteta's actions. But we do need to be respectful, and we do need to kind of show that respect towards officials. So they mustn't cross the line. And I have to say, on this occasion, I don't think he does. But what it does for me is the damage that it does is that basically it kind of calls into question about what managers can say, because it was so high profile at the time and it was such a talking point, and it will be a debating point over the next few days, that I think it's a shame that if other managers, if other players think, well, if Arteta's got away with it, then I can. And frankly, I don't think that's another reason why he shouldn't have been charged in the first place, because it only highlights an issue which I don't think should have been brought to the fore. If we put TV cameras, microphones in front of managers after games like that, and they give forceful replies, give strong replies, but don't cross the line, the last thing we should do, frankly, is charge them like this. It's proved to be a bit of an embarrassment, actually, for the FA, which is a great shame, because I tell you what, we should protect referees, we should provide respect, and this does nothing to help the cause.